Okay, we're off and running. It's Christina Merkley, and this is a process pop-up at the end of April 30th, and this is our 6th one. We've had a bit of a hiatus because the last one, if you were there, we got rudely interrupted by a Zoom bomber, the new phenomenon in the world. And, which irritates me. Had to do some orphan rescues, not so much the irritation of whatever might be said or done to me specifically, because I actually find that kind of handy for doing processing work, see where my triggers still are. But I found for myself anyway, it's where my triggers come in is protection of people in the container, right? So other people being upset and just the interruption of the work itself. So we've had to, put in proper security measures. So thank you for those of you who have jumped through the hoops to be here. It's going to change the nature of what we're doing, which I'm trusting the process, because the first 5 weeks, it was very much open to anybody who wanted to come. And we attracted a lot of people who I didn't necessarily know too, most of them visual practitioners, which was fine, but obviously it attracted Zoom bombers as well. So, now we've got a nice small intimate container that's secure here, but we've also lost that spontaneity kind of feel, and also the the openness and the goodwill to be open and available for everybody. It's still there, but they have to jump through some hoops. So rolling with the evolution of this as we go. I totally don't know how this goes. I don't know. I have some ideas about what to bring to each container process-wise. I have some ideas today. I'll throw those on the coffee table for us to consider. If something else has more of a priority, I may go that way. So it's very emergent. In terms of future stuff, I don't know. This seems to be unfolding now that we've got the security. Maybe we'll be back into doing it once a week. I'm just kind of seeing what's wants to emerge as we go here. So we'll see. Anything else to share? These are being recorded. It is on speaker view, so that means your video of yourself is only going to pop up if you speak. I do ask for everybody to have their videos on for 2 reasons. Zoom bomber alert, and second reason is just the intimacy of what we're doing. So we're processing here, and I know there's different mores that happen when we're online, but to me, this more should be how we act when we're in person. And if somebody was doing emotional processing, we would not be doing multiple tasking at the same time. So I ask you to abide by that. Totally get it if that doesn't work for you. So you're welcome to leave, and you can watch the recording, afterwards. The other thing is what I just want that to be able to see. If you go to speak and you do not want to have your video when you're speaking, you're certainly welcome to turn your video off at that point in time, okay? Yeah, hope that makes sense, and I hope you know how to do that. What else? The chat function, I think, is still up. Yeah, let me... yeah, it should be up and functioning. So usually we have there's quite a few people waiting, so you can let them in. The chat function we use quite a bit for being able to interact. And that's also another way you can interact if you don't want to be on video and be speaking and popping up. You can do it via the chat. Okay. And you may want to, right now, I allow you to rename yourself. I feel better if people take off their last names. So feel free to take off your last names, especially if you're going to be up and speaking at some point, because it will bring you into the video. Okay, makes sense? Now I'm just going to screen share and start with a little check-in, which I've done in a couple of the other pop-ups. And this is the emotional scale. And the source for this is the Abraham Hicks material. You may or may not be familiar with them, but I have a background that goes back quite some time with their material. This scale, as you may have heard me say on other sessions, is, you know, lots of different people will use an emotional scale, therapists, counselors, non-violent communication. A lot of places use this. This is the Abraham Hicks version of it. And they also come from underneath a vibrational frequency point of view. I like to use this as a check-in. As a coach, when I work with people one-to-one, my opening question to them is usually, who are you today? And we could say, with what's going on with the world at large, right? Who are we today, or who are we this moment, depending on what's going on and how you're interacting with it. In these containers, understandably, like the world at large, we're finding people across the whole spectrum. So I'll just rattle this off quick to give you a chance to just calibrate to, who are you today? Where are you on the scale? And I want to give kind of first dibs, if there is anybody who's at the lower place on the scale, that may trump what I have in mind in terms of what we're going to do process-wise. Especially if you are sick and scared, or you've lost somebody, or there's, you know, something very traumatic going on in your situation. Probably most of us are not going to have that immediacy, but if there's somebody in the container who does, I want to provide the support first for them. And then we'll go to the level of trauma that the rest of us are in. Okay, if we're there. So down at the little unhappy face here at the bottom, and you can see there's gradations. I know this is a little small, but there's gradations of color. I'm keeping it small just in case I need to take some notes along the side. The lowest down the scale is grief and depression and fear, despair, powerlessness, the stuff where we really turn it in on ourselves. And we start to move up, we've got some guilt and unworthiness and insecurity, and then jealousy. Some of us hang out in the next layer here, which is hatred and rage and revenge and anger. There's a lot of pissed offness going on in the world. Understandably, about different things going on and maybe how they're being handled and who's doing what, and the other fun stuff that was even here before this stuff started going. That's actually a step up from the lower so-called emotions, right? Where it's turned on in yourself, where you turn it on and project it out onto somebody else. Then we move up into discouragement, blame, worry, doubt. And then we get a little lighter into disappointment and overwhelm and frustration. That's actually a pretty high. We're starting to move up. When you get into pessimism, we make a big shift when you start to move up here into boredom. Some people are in the boredom stage, with, depending if you're needing to stay home or if that's something you're opting to do or have to do. We make a shift when we get into what's called the hope line. And a lot of my work and a lot of the stuff that I've posted on the community support page, if you're up higher up in the emotional scale, you're going to be able to access, and that's the visioning stage of things, right? What do you envision for yourself? Many people, and I'm working a lot with people one-to-one through this, and thankfully a lot of people are pretty high up, so I'm able to do visioning, tapping into the future self. And if you've seen the magnetism maps, you can do visioning at lots of different levels, at the individual level, at the partner level, whatever kind of duo you might be visioning with, the group level, the planet level. If you want to go meta, you can go to the galactic level, right? So that's the hope line. Then we're off and running when we cross that line. And I often will reference Obama's campaign from years back, right, where hope was splashed across him. Somebody knew what they were doing there from the emotional scale and the vibrational side of things. So optimism, positive expectation and belief, enthusiasm, eagerness, happiness. Yes, some people in the midst of all this are resonating here, especially those of us who do strat planning kind of work and kind of understand the inherent opportunity in the contrast. For systemic change, right? Positive systemic change, maybe even positive personal change in each of our individual lives. Passion. And then at the tippy top, which can be really irritating if you're down somewhere else on the scale, empowerment, freedom, appreciation, love, knowledge, joy, right? That's the high stuff. So let's do a check-in. Love to hear verbally for folks who are comfortable with checking in verbally. You can also, as a default, use the chat if you care to. But where are you today? Where are you on the emotional scale? I think for myself, this has been a pretty high couple of days. I've certainly been, you can ask for me which moment I'm at. I've certainly been across the range of things. And the process that I think we'll do today, which is polarity squares, came because of being down in some of the anger stuff last week. But I'm pretty up there in, I'd say, hopefulness and optimism, enthusiasm, not without some, potential worry there that things could pop and change, or depending on where different things go. But right now, that's where I'm at. Let's hear from others. Anybody who wants to unmute, go right ahead.
I would like to share that I am hopeful, which is a good place to be, considering I was pretty far down the scale for a few weeks.
Yeah, that's nice to hear, Rhoda. Good to hear that. Yeah.
I would say hopeful, optimism, positive. I don't think I can go any higher than that.
Hey, that's pretty high. Great. Yeah. Nice to see you, Wendy. And it's not a race, right?
No.
It's like be
Yes.
authentically where you are.
Yeah. I think yesterday I was sort of down, anger, discouragement. It depends on how things are going in the house.
Yeah.
And other people.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Wendy. Nice to meet you. Yeah.
Hey, Christina, this is Lynn.
Hi, Lynn.
I joined a little late. I had trouble with the audio, so I had to several tries. So I missed your opening, and I've forgotten on the scale, where is sadness in relation to anger? Is it above it or below it?
Below it. Yeah. Down there.
That's right, because anger gives you energy. Right.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I seem to be in sadness the last couple of days, and it's funny because I've been experiencing myself as quite hopeful, optimistic, actually seeing lots of opportunity, having quite a bit of energy and motivation to take care of, health habits and sort of the daily routine and everything. In the last couple of days, it's like I was coping well until I wasn't. And the last couple of days, I just feel like a hound dog.
Yeah. Been there, probably will be again. Yeah. Thanks. Yeah. Nice to hear your voice and hear who you are today. Yeah.
Thanks.
Hi, Christina. Nice to see you.
Hi, Maureen. How are you? Yeah.
I'm not very good. That's why I'm here.
Yeah.
I saw this a few weeks ago. I was in a lot of anger, which just hearing that it gave me energy propelled me out of some things and got me active. But I'm in a lost place. I'm having difficulty. Like, I pulled out the sheets from when I was in training and tried to get myself motivated and couldn't do that. And then yesterday you came across my mail, and I said, maybe that's it, because I'm lost. I feel lost. I feel unmotivated. And although I have, I'm blessed, I have clients still, and I'm still working. I cannot turn the corner. I can't seem to get myself to turn the corner on a vision going forward. And I've always had a vision and always been able to go forward. Yeah. And so I can feel it as I'm talking about it, quite a bit of deep pain, I think. There's an orphan there somewhere, I think.
Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, good. The plot thickens. Yeah. Orphan rescue is one of the tools that I've got on the community support page, and some of you are getting pretty familiar with it. So,
but I couldn't even get myself to do that.
That's okay. So, that's okay. You're allowed.
That's why I thought, got to come to the community.
Yeah.
Got to come to the community.
We'll see what happens. I think we'll do the polarity squares, which will be an interesting one for everybody. We're going to do one that anybody can access, which is Victim-Victimizer. But once you see how this works, it can be applied to any polarities. And, you know, I think I know, I don't just think, I know that it's difficult to run a group where people are all over the place, right? In terms of the emotional scale in some ways. And that's why I'm also doing the one-to-one coaching, because when I do, and you might want to do one, Maureen, if that is of interest.
Yeah.
You know, you have to be okay with being recorded, but you can turn your video off if you want to and change your name. But with the one-to-one, you know, it's calibrating where people are at, and you know, you go where someone is, and sometimes in those sessions it's just being, it's just meeting the moment, you know, and going very non-dual with it, of just being there with whatever it is, and inquiry. And so I would just, you know, in a mini little process with you, and hopefully modeling for everybody, be where you are, especially when you're down that so-called lower place. And those of us who are process folks, who are used to inhabiting upper regions of the scale, right? That's an authentic and very important place for us to be. So don't rush it.
Well, it's interesting because I do exactly what you were expressing for others in my work, and I couldn't see that that's what I need right now. Yeah. I need outside of myself. You know, I can put the face on. I can do what needs to be done because I've created this world that I automatically step into that. But I need it for me now, and I think that's the final phase of my healing too, is to trust the other. So and I trust you, so that's why I'm here this morning. I wouldn't go into, you know, odd places at this point at the level that I'm at. So it's quite wonderful. It's nice to see you. Nice to be here.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a wonderful group. Good to have you here. Okay, I see wonderful. There's chats going on as well. Anybody else, just any late joiners, we ask that you put your video on so we can identify you, and leave it on as much as possible, given we're doing intimate processing work. I want to keep it as real to an in-person experience as possible, so we wouldn't be doing the laundry and doing other various things in an in-person processing group. So, yeah.
This is Vika.
Oh, sorry. You go ahead, I'll go next.
Thank you. Yeah, just as a check-in, I'm somewhere between worry and doubt on the one hand and overwhelm and frustration on the other. So somewhere in this middle thing, and I get actually irritated when I talk to people who are like more positive, like too much optimism. It's like, oh, go away.
Yeah, it's really irritating. That's why I kind of said when we get up there, right? So we'll see. I think this one that I'll do today, you'll be able to access, and hopefully it won't be irritating. Hopefully it'll actually be satisfying to get out the grr. Yeah.
Wouldn't it be great to get into the more positive, passionate feelings again? Yeah.
You probably will. Yeah. Okay, Deb, I think you were going to go. Yeah.
Sure. So I am in that positive place, more up in the hopeful, optimistic space, and I've had an enjoyable past couple weeks, some really interesting interactions with other people, unexpected things happening that have really just keep reinforcing for me the goodness in this world. And so that's really been uplifting. But I also do feel a little bit of doubt or guilt around that too, because I have conversations with people who are lower down on the scale, lots of worry, lots of anxiety. And so it makes me question my own view of the world and whether I've got my rose-colored glasses on a little too thick. So I'm just trying to balance that right now. Not trying to take in too much news. I just read headlines, glimpse at a couple things, but just try to keep it minimum and just keep myself open. There's just like even this community right here, it's just such good energy for all of us to come together. So that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Thank you, Deb. Nice to hear your voice. I hear some of you are continuing to meet. Go ahead. Who is that?
This is Lynn. I was going to say, can I have a PS?
Sure, go for it. Yeah.
Often I have a first line of thinking, and then other people share, and then that reminds me that, oh, I wish I'd said this and this. I was just thinking about how what's coming up for me in the last couple of days is a bit of beating myself up because I'm not having more courage in a couple of areas of my life, things that I should be doing that I'm procrastinating on because they're uncomfortable. And, you know, just, yeah, feeling a big lack of courage for some reason. And it's really eating me away. And yet somehow every strategy I usually have that works is not working for me to get myself to take action. So that's,
you know what the flip of it is? Is it fear, or do you, or tiredness, or?
I think there's, yeah, there's fear, discomfort. I don't know. There's just a general wall of resistance. Yeah, it's, and I even did the orphan rescue on myself. I went back and listened to one of the videos. That helped. That helped quite a lot. But I still didn't cross the line and, you know, take the action I need to take. And it's, you know, involves a difficult conversation with a difficult person. And I, you know, that's the way it is. So anyway, I just wanted to share that in case anybody else is feeling lack of courage these days. Okay.
Hi,
Thanks.
it's Jody.
Hi, Jody.
Hi. I'm just chiming in because I had a similar experience to the speaker just before me. I'm resonating with irritation, but it's more irritation at myself and about yeah, I guess just expectations I have at myself, and just wanting to try and soften those. So yeah, it's interesting that it's not about out there in the world. That's more like inside.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Jody. Okay, anybody else? And we ask you to turn on your videos, please, if possible, given it's a processing group and we wouldn't do an in-person processing group and not show ourselves. So I get there might be stuff and other people and things going on, but as much as possible, we ask you to turn on your videos, please.
Hi,
Also,
Christina.
yeah, also we need to do it for the Zoom bomber. Those of you who are here, I can tell with the names, they're all names and people who should be here, but it also helps with that. Please go ahead, whoever was saying. Hi, Christina.
Hi, Christina. It's Susanna.
Susanna, yes.
Hi. It's hard for me to place myself because, like with a lot of people, I go up and down, but I really resonated with Jody and Lynn because even though I'm frustrated by myself, I know that the root is uncertainty and confusion. Like, I think because I don't see clarity yet, I'm kind of a little frozen because I'm like, well, not sure where to move, but I am also seeing that I'm not giving myself the time to really go, okay, just sit and let things come so you have some clarity. And then the other frustration, irritation, just with the not knowing what's coming and wanting to get to the place, okay, let's get stuff going in a hopeful way.
Yeah, so, totally.
Yeah. And just wanting to connect with people here.
Thank you, Susanna. Yeah, that's what it's about. I had to really sit, that's part of the delay in between the 5th session and this 6th session, because I had to sit with, what did I want to do? Right? And it was unclear for a long time about, do I want to put on this whole layer of stuff that I have to for the Zoom bombing? I'm glad I did. I'm glad I came to that realization, but I know too myself, and this whole fall was like that actually before this all hit, to just as much as possible, don't do anything if I don't know what the clarity is, right? If I don't have that, right? Sometimes I can get into do because I'll push through action and I'll muscle something into being. And a lot of those things I muscled into being in the fall when I was going through my grief with my dog and everything that happened, wouldn't you know, those are the things that dismantled a lot of them too, right? So kind of interesting. Maybe I could have saved myself a bunch of work and listened to that. Okay, let's do 1 or 2 more and then we're going to move on, and we're going to do another process that I have not done in this container so far, which is polarity squares. And I think no matter where you are on the emotional scale, you'll be able to access this particular one.
Yeah, Christina.
Yeah, please. Hi, Sally, go.
Good. I've noticed that I have at least 1 or 2 from each category. And I've been spending a lot of my time in the mornings trying to name my feelings and locate them in my body. And I've noticed that depending where I'm coming from in my body, I can identify multiple things going on at once. So for example, if I'm feeling into my heart, I'm feeling a lot of grief right now for people that are losing things. There's so much loss going on. And I can resonate with that a lot, the grief. If I'm in my left brain and I'm thinking, wow, this is incredible, everything I've ever wanted is coming about, that there's a transition going on in the world, and then I'm really enthusiastic and hopeful. And if I'm in my right brain, it just depends where I'm coming from in my body. Then maybe sometimes I'm getting into some pessimism about maybe we won't make this across the threshold into a new world, and there's existential risk and people are really at risk right now. And so, and if I'm in my gut, I'm definitely feeling the worry. That's, you know, there's a lot of change going on and there's no planning possible right now for virtually anybody. And so I identified a new feeling. Actually, I went to that emotion wheel to see how many feelings I'm having at once. It's very complex. I've never in myself felt this level of complexity before. And I identified one that's not even on the wheel and I've never felt before. And I'm 58. I have never in my life ever felt dread before. And I feel into my gut. There's a whole new feeling I have never had in my life before. And I've been in situations of deep trauma and suffering before, and civil war, and I have never felt dread. And I thought, wow, this is interesting. I'm quite old and I can still have brand new feelings. So that in itself was an interesting experience. Yeah.
Yes, what just flashed through my head, I guess I'll just speak it. It might be everybody's cup of tea, but I think you're pretty meta too. You know, I just go to the soul perspective. Boy, why did we show up at this point in time? Probably for those reasons, right? Doesn't make sense on the 3D level, but I think at the spiritual level, if you want to pack a whole lot into a lifetime, boy, we're doing it coming into this particular time.
And then Christina, if I might just add that is where I'm trying to live my whole day right now, is in the passion. Because I know that I showed up at this time for a reason, and I'm doing that. I'm doing what I was put here to do. So this is the time.
Yes, and you're doing it, and you're encountering grief, and you're encountering hope. And I love how you inhabit, and I think probably a lot of us do, right? Inhabit across the whole spectrum. Yes, and not either or. The complexity of being human at this point in time, and depending on one's awareness and one's, you know, role and path. Whew. I'm a tapper, so I'm just like, ooh, let's tap that through.
Yeah, so I would categorize this time in my life as probably the most intense time I've ever lived through. So
yeah,
because it's so complex.
Yeah, me too. And it's operating the individual and the collective, right? I think I've had things going on in my individual process and the collective was fine, or, you know, a flip-flop, but it wasn't the whole collective. It might've been parts of the world or certain things going on. Yeah. Thank you, Sally. Whew. Okay. Well, with that, all those gorgeous check-ins, wherever you are on the scale, you know, is gorgeous. And Kristen, I just saw your note, understandably, from Kenya with the bandwidth issue. I get it. There'll be other situations. But don't let, if you're curled up in bed or something, stop you from flashing your video. So love seeing that. That's real and genuine, and that's what this group is about. Yay. Thank you, Janice. Yeah. Okay, let me stop my share, and I'm going to bring up another one. Just getting a map ready on my end. I'm going to bring up this polarity squares and tee it up for us. This is on the community support page. Hopefully all of you know where that is. I'll rattle it off in a second. Pat will put the URL into the chat for us. I put this up, I think it was last night, so I added a new map. And this is actually a brand new map in my collection of them. I'm probably going to change some of the spacing, just looking at it, but this will be the first official time doing it with a map. Some of you are my private clients. We've done polarity squares in our sessions, so you'll be familiar with this. So there's now a map, yay. This shout out, this is Leslie Temple Thurston's work. It's called The Marriage of Spirit, Enlightened Living in Today's World. She's a South African. And in this book, she gives permission to use her processes. So that's why I've gone ahead. I usually don't, with people's intellectual property, take liberty with it, but since she gave the go-ahead, I do. And I'll also mention, because some of you are process people and you're always like me to share what I'm into and what I'm researching. So Lucia Renee is where I first heard about Leslie Temple Thurston. Lucia Renee is a badass mystic who does a lot around dismantling the patriarchy in the full sense of that word from an energetic point of view. There's also another woman to mention, I believe I mentioned her previously, is Pamela Wilson. I hope to be able to ask Pamela to come as a guest to one of these one day. She's a non-dual teacher that I really respect. And she does a lot of work with polarities as well from a consciousness non-dual point of view. When I have a sec, I'll put those into the chat. Okay. So let's tee this up. So polarities, right? Any of those where you were on the emotional scale, you can use that as a polarity. What's the flip opposite of it? Also, another way to encounter it is just look at what's going on in the world and where you get triggered. And chances are there's one, if not several polarities embedded in it. So once you've got the polarity, you're going to do a quadrant on it. So I'm going to pick a polarity that all of us need to work in our lives, and it's certainly up in this situation. So this should be handy for everybody who's in here right now, depending on where you are on the emotional scale. I'm also teaching you how to fish, because as you encounter other polarities beyond the one we're going to do, you'll know, if you care to, how to work them. So we're going to do Victim-Victimizer. So I'm just going to write this up at the top. And you go ahead and you'll see the quadrant. It says desire for and fear of. So we take one of them. So desire for victim, or being victimized, right? And then fear of victim. I hope I'm spelling everything right, but victimizer, or being victimized. You don't get hung up if you don't have easy access to the template. Again, it's over on the community support page. There's a PDF there that you can download and print off. It can be as simple as just drawing a quadrant, right? That's what I do in my own journals. I don't always do my fancy graphics. So grab a pen and paper if you need to. If you're working by tablet, whatever, you can use the template. You can just grab a sheet of paper and draw a square on it and rattle those things off. I'm not going to have a ton of space here, so I'm probably going to have to change this template.
Can I ask you a technical question before you dive in, Christina? Just my other layer of curiosity, which is, are you using your tablet right now and it's plugged into your computer?
Yeah, I'll talk to you on bonus time about that. Yes.
Sure, great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so once you did just to talk about the other places on the template, so you have an overview of what's going to happen. So we're going to dive in here soon enough with these quadrants, and we're going to do this as a group, which is very powerful. You can also just be doing this as an individual. As a group, we're going to get a lot more robust richness because different people in the group are going to be able to access things that we can't necessarily always do on our own. So we're going to dive in here and really explore these 4 quadrants. That's the first step. The second step after we do that, and you'll see once we poke in, some of these quadrants are more conscious than the others. Typically there's 1 or 2 that are quite unconscious, that you're like, that's not me, I don't go there. Other people are that, not me. So it's really powerful when you poke into those places you don't usually poke into. And when you do that, it starts to balance out the psyche. It doesn't start to, it does. When we do that, then we're able to access more of a transcendent state, states that actually encompass all of these things instead of the polarities, right? It's really moving us up the meta vibrational scale here. That's what all those words up at the top are. Those are transcendent states. We can't get there till we actually do the gnarly work of all the quadrants. And when we do, then we'll be able to look at the work we've done and identify which of those states fit in this particular situation with the polarity. Depending on the polarity we're doing and where we get with it, we'll be able to access different transcendent states. The final step is a release along the bottom. And I just stuck with Leslie's particular release. And when I work with clients, sometimes we tweak this release because different people resonate with different language and different concepts. So at the end, it's basically turning it over to grace, right? Sally, I think, had mentioned left brain, right brain. Our left brain is going to tackle this stuff in a certain way, and that's awesome. But that step at the end is another step on the right side of things, right? Of instead of trying to muscle this into being and make it happen in our lives, we just kind of surrender to go, I don't get how this all works, and I'm a cog in the larger kind of system here, and I trust a higher power, if you will. I trust, you know, what I'm embedded in. I trust the one, unity, all that is, to figure this out. So that's what you're doing, is basically releasing it. You do the work the best you can from your right brain, left brain capacities, and then you turn it over and let it go. And then it's quite amazing what happens in one's individual life as you do this work, because different things that match that work that you've done start to kind of do a boomerang effect back to you. And if there are unleft answers, right, or questions, then those answers usually find their way to you through the process of your life. So it's quite amazing how this interaction thing works. And some of you know, because that's how you live your life, as I'm increasingly attempting to live mine. Okay, so hopefully that gets the big picture. So now we're going to dive in. And so we're going to play the game of let's each calibrate inside of ourselves and honestly find where we can find within ourselves a desire for being a victim. And then where within ourselves can we find the flip of that, which is the fear of being a victim? How do we push aside, no, I don't want to be a victim? Then we go into the fear of being victimized, right? That victimizer, that outside thing, might be the virus, might be a politician, might be somebody who's in you're in lockdown with, right? Take your pick. That fear of that victimizer. Understandably, and again, it's interesting to do it in a group. I will be here if you get into emotional distress with this, because you may, of course, stir up victimizer situations in your life. Please let me know. I will stick around afterwards and continue to help and process. I would also point you to the orphan rescue material on the community support page, because chances are there's some work to be done with that victimizer situation from the past, likely, that's getting stirred up, or even in the present. And then this is probably the one that's going to be out of consciousness for most of us, which is the lower left, is that desire to be a victimizer, right? So actually this is the mature psychological spiritual work, right, is to own within ourselves where we would actually love to and do victimize. And what's in there, right? That is, I mean, I'm getting goosebumps as I'm saying this, right? That's where the work is, the rub is. So with that, maybe we'll go for probably a somewhat easy one. Maybe fear of being a victim or fear of victimizer is probably the easier place to access. So, so I'll get the ball rolling. I'll start with the fear of victim. So if I go within myself and take a couple of deep breaths and get centered into me. This is I'm a 6 on the Enneagram, which is the loyalist and amongst other things, devil's advocate, etc. I'm also what's called a counterphobic 6, so I'm afraid a lot, but I go at things that I'm afraid of, as opposed to being what we typically think of afraid of, you know, running away from stuff. So I go at it. So this thing about being victim, I don't like very much. So for me, what's my fear around being a victim is disempowerment, right? I hate that feeling of being disempowered and somebody having power over me. Stirs up a lot of crap from my childhood. Stuff I'm still working to some extent. So that's, I could keep going and going, but I want to open this up for all of us to do this. So as you settle in and you feel within yourself, what is there for you around victim? What is fearful about being a victim?
This is Lynn. Thank you for sharing that and leading the way. It's really touching me. Mm-hmm. And I realize this kind of like a pendulum swing state in myself, because I'm kind of like, I'm not a victim in any way. And I think it's funny because I usually go to anger if I have a negative emotion, and to go to my sadness is, I consider progress, because for years I've had layers of anger, but I wasn't able to touch the sadness.
Get the vulnerability underneath. Mm-hmm.
And I lose my juice. Sadness drags me down and takes my energy away. Anger gives me energy to do something, to muscle through a situation. And I've been trying to dial down the warrior mm-hmm. in me over the last number of years, and dial up more soft goddess, more feminine energy. And so that that softness to me is scary, because it feels like weakness.
Well, I'm going to put it over here because it's in the range, right? So you're doing the flip, is it? So I've got sadness, lose my juice, with the fear of being a victim, but actually the desire for a victim in there is softness.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
And maybe vulnerability. What else? How else would you frame it up?
Yeah, absolutely. Those are perfect words. And I was, what was the thought that I just had about that? Oh, that a fear. Are we in fear yet, or am I jumping ahead?
Fear of victim.
Yeah,
yes.
I don't want to be exploited. I don't want to be taken advantage of. I don't want to be used and manipulated.
Good. Getting a lot on the board. Excellent.
I feel like crying my eyes out right now.
Yeah, that's it, sweetie. Yeah, it's okay. It's beautiful to tap into that, especially for those of us who are doing that yang thing and that warrior thing, and we live by that, right? Yeah. This is the work for you. Gorgeous. Thank you.
I think
yeah, please go right ahead. Yeah.
A couple of good things in chat, with no options, no choices.
Yes.
Not having control.
No options. Perfect. Or choices, no control. And if you don't have control, what happens?
Yeah.
whoever that was, write that in chat or pop up, right? We want to even go further. What does that mean if we lose control, if we lose our power? What just came up for is be hurt, right? In all the different aspects of the hurt, mentally, physically, traumatized, whatever gory, gruesome thing might occur. Anything else there in Pat?
Yes, we got silenced and helplessness, body impacts, breathlessness.
Yes.
High
Okay, so
pulse,
slow down. I got to get them down here. So silenced, what else?
helplessness,
Yeah.
and the impacts on your body,
Yeah.
breathlessness.
So got breathless. Yep.
High pulse, discomfort, that all goes with that one.
Yeah. Probably that I'll put in here just to riff on it. Fight, flight, freeze, fawn.
Wow.
Right. How different people, how we respond to that. Our
Really,
coping mechanisms. Yeah.
yeah, being seen as weak by others.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good. Lynn had that and I didn't write it down. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Taken advantage of.
Mm-hmm. Seen as weak and being so-called
Yes.
weak. Taken advantage of. Good. I didn't get that down either from Lynn. Good. Thank you, Maureen. So just feel that. Yes, it's heavy. That's an aspect of humanity, right? That's an aspect of us.
May I say something?
Of
Christina?
course. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. About the fear of being a victim, I can say that my fear is to feel comfortable as a victim. I don't know if, as to say, to settle down in some sense, like accepting it. I read a lot about this empowerment, but for me, the fear as a victim is to lay down and feeling comfortable as a victim.
Okay, so I'm going to actually put that. What you're tapping into is you're finding the desire for victimhood, which is accepting it and being able to lay down and comfort in that. If you were to explore the comfort a little bit, what's comfortable about it? What does it allow you to do? If you kind of lay into that victimhood, then what happens?
You don't have power. You are in some other hands, and you don't have the responsibility.
Ah, there you go. No responsibility. So in a funny way, right, it's a benefit in a responsibility, yeah. Okay, very good. Thank you, Julia. And we can make that flip too. And we can keep going on any of these. If you got some more if you're a victim, but if you're starting to poke into, well, there's actually some so-called, some benefits or some good stuff about the victim. What can you find?
Hi,
Christina, it's Jody. Oh.
Let me get a stack. I'll do Jody and then I think I heard Pat. Yeah.
I have for the fear of victim, going back to where I already survived.
So returning to
being the victim. So the fear of because I've already learned how to get out of that and not to be that. It's like returning to a place I don't want to be.
Yeah, I put returning to old places.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay. Okay, go ahead, Pat.
Yeah, it's stuff from the chat for the what we were talking about, not the, well, the desire for side, but the fear of, the loss of choice and liberty.
Mm-hmm. I got choice already, so I'm going to put liberty,
Okay.
loss of liberty.
And what did I do to deserve this? You know, kind of blame.
I'm going to put blame over here.
Okay.
Questioning, that's, I think, more a statement than anything. Yeah. Okay.
Treated like a child.
Whoever that is, maybe that's in both places.
Yeah.
That could be a fear of victim. So, oops. Child. And then I'm going to put it over here too. Being a child.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Pat.
Okay.
I'm thinking about in the desire for being a victim, you know, desire for magic, or, you know, just wishing it would all go away, magical thinking.
Magical thinking, yeah.
So that kind of abdicating and no action, huh?
Yeah, just wouldn't it be nice to just wave a magic wand and it's all gone?
What came up for me was then I can
Just
stop
one
fighting.
sec. Yeah, let me just go a little deeper into that. So magical thinking, abdicate, do the magic wand and it be all gone. Tie that into victim. So your victim, is it wanting someone else to do it? Because you can't, so.
Yeah, I think it's something about the problem going away all on its own, so I don't have to deal with it. So it's a lot related to abdication for me, at
Okay,
least.
don't have to deal with it.
Yeah, I can just put my head in the sand.
Thank you. That's what I wanted to get deeper into, head into sand. Okay. Now, of course, there's situations where you do have your power totally stripped from you and there ain't a damn thing you can do, right? So, and you can't get into action. But what we're poking into, there are places where we're seeing that there can be a tendency to be a victim, or, you know, there's some fruits to being a victim, right? To really own them, depending on the situation, that it does get us away from having to deal with something, and to stick our head in the proverbial sand and to lay back and go, oh, well, somebody else is going to handle this, not my bailiwick, because I'm not in power here. They are. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I think it was Jody. Thanks, or Susanna. Yeah.
Yeah, no, and it really flows with what Lynn was saying, that then I don't have to fight anymore. I don't have to do the work anymore. I just, yeah, but it's the fighting. Just don't have to do it anymore. And that's a really eye-opening one for me. I hadn't realized that.
So we're poking into, we're bringing some stuff up. So if you're not, so what's the flip of not fighting, right? If you're so used to fighting, it's like, oh, the only way I have to describe it is not this. So what's the flip of that?
A metaphor that comes up for me is like, instead of paddling hard,
let's get Susanna to do it. It's her, it's hers. So what's the flip of that? No
well,
fight.
when you wrote lay down, I'm like, oh yeah, I could just lay down and just not, is one flip.
Yeah.
And the other flip is that softness.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And because sometimes I think in my fight, I don't quite, sometimes when I'm in fight mode, I don't actually see everything that's going on.
Okay. So see, right? And take it as see, probably listen, take in. Okay, very good. Thank you. Lynn, did you want to tease out a bit more there?
Sure. Sorry to cut you off, Susanna. The metaphor that was coming up for me is, either I'm paddling my canoe upstream in difficult waters, that's the fight, or I just let go and I just coast, and the canoe will go wherever the river takes me, and there's no effort on my part.
Okay, good. Some more for this one. Coasting, no effort.
Cruising down the river.
Surrender. Yeah, cruise. Yeah.
Just want life to be easy, right?
Okay. We're not saying these things fit every single thing for victim, right? This is the challenge when you do this in group, because people can get triggered from their certain situations. But the power of doing it in a group is we get to poke into this in lots of different ways. So I haven't said this ground rule here, but I'm getting provoked to say it, which is, think of this as a big old coffee table amongst us, right? We're in a virtual living room here, and there's a coffee table, and people are throwing different stuff on the coffee table. You don't have to pick it up. So, looking at your individual thing, it's very useful to do this in a group because you can access things. And so if you're like, oh, that actually lands for me in my situations that I'm thinking of right now, pick it up. If you're like, what do you mean? Then don't pick it up. That's not yours, right? Or it's not yours right now. You're not able to go there. So that's okay. Okay, well done. There may be some more. Keep them going in chat. Surrender. Yeah, I kept feeling that when I see Sally's word there, surrender. Okay. Now let's go to another one. So let's go to the fear of victimizer, right? So there's that victimizer out there, and we each have our individual ones in this situation and probably from places in our past. So, or our imagined fearful future. So focus on that victimizer and tap into your fear. It can be similar to the fear of victim, but there's usually a different nuance when we do this. So we can kind of poke into some slightly or dramatically different places. What comes up when you envision and pull up that victimizer? What's the fear that victimizer is going to bring about?
For me, what comes up is being perceived as mean, selfish, narcissistic, greedy.
Okay, good. So they're greedy and narcissistic. And what else did you say? Mean. Okay.
Selfish.
Excellent. Ooh, you're getting into it now. Good. Good. I see lots of head nods. As you focus on your victimizer of choice, what's bad about victimizers? What are they? I'm going to put don't care about others. I have a lot of stuff. I so much don't care about what's done onto me, but it's others, right? So, of course, there'd be situations where it's done onto me where I'd care, but that gets me about when I go systemic. I'm always looking at the system and who runs the systems, and they're doing it for their own. You're doing it for your own benefit. Don't care about other people.
Some good ones in chat too.
Yeah, please, Pat, go ahead. Read them out slowly.
Yeah, sorry. Wendy, wanting to destroy.
Yes, good one.
Control. Yeah.
Got them? Any others? Yeah.
Being bulldozed over, which is kind of the same thing by
No,
someone.
those are good. Good words. That's a different
Yeah,
nuance. We want to get
very
the different
much.
nuance.
Let's throw in gaslighting.
Good one. Everybody know what gaslighting is?
No.
No.
Okay, so yeah, you probably all do, but if you don't, it's okay. You probably have experienced it and just not had the label for it. That's when they make you to be the crazy one. They're actually doing the crazy behavior. Yeah, but then they try to talk you into what's your problem. Yeah, I'm not doing exactly what you said I'm doing. And it makes a person really doubt themselves and lose their connection to their wisdom. Pat's like getting a big aha.
Oh,
Like, oh!
I lived it for a long time.
Yeah.
Not anymore.
And there's a very large pattern in society of men doing that to women in intimate relationships, in the workplace, and so on. Or the thing where you say something and then they turn around and they say no, and then they say the same thing you've offered, paraphrased in their words, and everybody goes, oh yeah, that's a fantastic idea. And you go, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Yes. And Christina,
It doesn't discriminate in gender. Women do it too. But yes. Go ahead, Maureen.
Oh, I didn't say anything.
Oh, it's Sherry. it's Sherry. Can you hear me?
Oh, Sherry. Hi.
Okay.
Yes, please.
Hi.
Yeah.
I had this picture in my mind of the victimizer taking the reins or taking the like taking over the checkbook, like taking over control, and taking the mic, not giving it back.
I can't get this angle on my tablet well. Taking over, we got money, the mic, not giving back, the reins, very good one, good, reins, not giving back. Now, if you start to get a whiff of the victimizer within, that aspect of oneself who can be a victimizer, and then something comes in and shuts it down. Oh no, can't go there. What is it that starts to rise within you that you're like, ooh, I'm afraid of that in me. I can't do that. That's not good. Maybe you were literally trained as a kid, right? When you were socialized, no, or somewhere you picked it up, or it just came from something within you. But where does the start to rise and the brakes come on? Oh, I can't be that. I can't do that.
I think for me, Christina, when you just asked that question, that's what prompted for me was that thing of wanting to lash out at somebody because I'm hurt. I'm coming from a place of hurt, so I want to, and then I need to stop myself because I'm supposed to be nice.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to put this over. That's the desire for victim too, is being nice. And so this is as simple as not nice. What's other words for not nice? If you're not nice, what are you?
Selfish, cruel.
Yep.
Mean.
Yep. I had the selfish and mean already, but the cruel was the new addition. Good.
And I don't know if there's a thing that joy of causing people pain, and maybe that's just all those words, but I think for some people it feeds, they feel like it feeds their soul somehow to cause other people hurt and pain.
Yeah, sadistic. Okay, we're getting into it. Good. What else as you consider the victimizer outside, or when the victimizer starts to rise within, where the shutdown happens or the rejection happens of it? Victimizers do what? I'm going to put kill, maim, destroy, rape, pillage.
Make everything come to a stop.
Okay, stop.
I'm sorry, I have to add it. Grab him by the pussy.
Grab by pussy. You need to do orphan rescue on that, Lynn. Yeah.
Just quoting somebody famous. If you
I know you are.
Infamous.
Yeah, yeah, no, I know you are, and I mean it. That and then the other thing, I can just see that it's understandably it's a charge in you, so that's an entry point for you for orphan rescue work. Yeah, because he's got a tie-up, as so many people. I've worked a lot with Trump and others, right, as being the entry point for this. Trace it down, because he's traced says something else earlier in life, and as you go in and you find out which, and there may be several, and you do that work with orphan rescue. I'm not saying it's going to take everything away from Trump, that's not the point, but it's going to give you a different access point to Trump.
Yes, I've been doing other work, polarity management, for several years, and in this work, myself, my own work, and also facilitating others, Trump becomes the exemplar for people's shadow integration work, because he's got so many features that he demonstrates in the public sphere that people can easily identify where their triggers are, right? So I hear you.
Yeah.
Who knew that he could be put to such powerful and positive use?
Maybe as you look at the soul perspective, he and all of us knew that. Yeah. Yeah. So use that, grab by the pussy, use that for your lead in for orphan rescue. That's the trigger. Yeah. Okay.
Actually, it's not a trigger for me. It was just sharing it in the list.
Okay.
I don't feel that as a trigger.
Okay.
In other words, it's a violation of boundaries. They don't care.
That's
about
good. Good. There's another way. Yep. Good.
And they treat you as objects. They don't see you as a full human person with a subjective experience.
Good. Good. Thank you, Sally.
Did somebody already say bully? Bulldozer makes me think of bully, and
that's
also
good.
Blame shifting, scapegoating other people instead of taking responsibility.
Excellent, Rhoda. Mm-hmm.
Inspired by thinking of Trump once again.
Yeah, yeah, very good. Yeah, good. Excellent. Yeah. And Lynn, thank you. You allowed me to, it's not just you, and sorry if I picked on you a little bit there, but it was an opportunity for you and for others. Any of these we could, as you're getting this stirred up and it's reminding you of certain people and you're using that person to be able to tease out the fear of victimizer, this is ripe for doing orphan rescue. Yeah. Okay, so that you can springboard from this victimizer quadrant, bing, bing, right over to doing the orphan rescue. Yeah. Okay, now let's go into, we saved the cherry on top here, right? To go into the desire for victimizer. So just like the desire for victim can be a little hard at first to get into, but once you start to get in there, you kind of get, there's something in here. What is in there? You know, if you can look at it at the meta level in the world about why would it be actually of use to have a victimizer? And you could access it through oneself, which is, where have you been a victimizer? And what was delicious or interesting or empowering, or where's the juice, to use Lynn's word, around being the victimizer? What's the victimizer got into it that you can tap into that actually has some to it?
Deborah says control.
Okay, good.
Some kind of power.
Yes.
coming out on top in a situation.
Great. Good.
Yeah. Winning.
Winning, and I think it was Rhoda. Go for it.
Yeah, I'm a little embarrassed to say an image comes up for me of a dominatrix.
Yeah. There's a lot of juicy juice in that, isn't there? Dominatrix, I'm dominating. Yes, and maybe even a sexual thing in there. Yeah, good. Surprising, Rhoda. Just teasing.
There's also a need to get justice, but it actually looks more like revenge than justice.
Okay, so justice and revenge gets kind of blurred, right? The vigilante kind of thing.
Yeah. I'm going to get you back for that.
Good. Get back, balance, even it up.
What about pride? Something like, oh, I cast a big shadow.
Okay. Excellent.
Yeah, and just piggybacking on what you just said, I'm thinking like, you know, protect my ego, defend my ego, something around that.
So get into the ego. As you're in your ego and you're all puffed up or whatever, what's that feel like? What's in
you know,
there?
there's this being right, taking care of my interests, defending myself, something like that.
Good. That's excellent. Right. My interests. Looking
Maybe
after
even
number
right
one.
of existence. Oops, sorry, Christina.
Yeah. Right of existence. Good.
Self-justification, if that's a word.
Yeah.
Totally is.
There's something about competitive energy here too, like wanting to be the best or something like that.
Okay, we'll put it in. The best, on top. Yeah, there ain't no competition. I trumped it all. Good. No pun intended. Yeah.
Can I add taking the lion's share and, you know, like being entitled to just take whatever you want and not care about other people getting
exactly
what they need?
Yes. Excellent.
Yeah, Rhoda, and that word entitled, that's a big one.
Entitlement. So good. Yeah.
You know, I've seen a couple more here that.
Thanks, Pat. What do we got?
A look at me type thing, and being perceived as powerful.
I'm going to put peacock. That comes up for me.
Yeah,
so put
good.
peacock, perceived as powerful. Yeah. Okay. So this, everybody, has given us an inside look via our own ability to own it, right? About why somebody would want to be a victimizer, why that would be interesting, ourselves included, right? Who else? There's somebody else popping up there. No? Okay. Anything else that you can get into? I'll prompt it again. As you get into maybe embodying the victimizer, what's it feel like in there that has some oomph?
Something about get some respect.
Feels self-righteous.
I'm going to put inflict pain. That just came up for me because I'm hurt, and then I turn around and it's like I want to like, don't you do that to me. Put in place, put someone in their place.
A word that keeps coming up for me is sociopath.
Yes. So why would it be? That's absolutely. This we're tapping into the train here, not always, but of sociopath and psychopath. So we're trying that on for size, so I can understand why that term's coming up. Let's go into the sociopath, right? And as you embody sociopath, what's in there that maybe you don't usually access? What's in there?
I think that the reason that word's coming up for me is that being completely cut off from humanity and not caring about It's all, you know, we've got words like my interests, my ego, my needs, and it's at the expense of anybody else. And there is absolutely no concern or consideration of impact to someone else.
Okay, very good, Deb. So I put in not caring, no empathy, right? And for some of us who are very mammalian, right, and people who are attracted to this container, we're going to be even more so probably than most people in the population, right? Caring and empathetic, we're helping professionals. So, you know, this, we can go into our victimizer and then, whoa, what do you know? All that caring stuff's not there. And you know, there's some places where it's like, it's kind of nice to have no empathy. Wow, what a concept. Right? So in doing this, if it's not apparent, right, we poke into stuff that we maybe even up till now have not actually got into to this extent. Like we understand it more, right? We also, if we're doing it in terms of using ourselves, which is ideal too, using ourselves about where do we go there and what's in there for us, it balances it out. It makes us a fuller human, right? And as we're seeing other people do that same behavior, instead of, oh, they're so bad and I never do that, there's a humility that comes to go, oh, you know what? I got some of that in me too. I understand that. Maybe I don't let that run loose or whatever, but instead of just it being a shadow and projected out, we can actually own it and have that maturity. So how we come at it is much different, right? There's a woman, while we're talking about psychopath and sociopath, I'll put her name out here too. Annika Lucas is her name. And she, talking about psychopaths, had a childhood in, I think it was Denmark, and it came out in Denmark, no, Belgium, sorry, about the pedophilia network and what was happening, and it was very enmeshed with politicians and everything there. She, as a young child, was in that pedophilia network with satanic ritual abuse. It's a horrific story. Out of that experience, you know, she has done her and continues to do her work, her inner work. So a handful of people on the planet who have really, really worked this stuff from deep personal knowing. She's went through yoga. Somatic work was one of the most powerful places for her to really deal with what we're dealing with in this quadrant, right? The victim and the victimizer polarity inside of her and what she experienced. She does a lot of work on power, understandably, right? We're seeing throughout here the power control, and also that meta place of being able to understand it and come from a compassionate place. And if she can do it from what she went through, wow, right? So I would point you to her. She's in the midst of a book coming out. She works with an organization called Saving Jane, which is with victims of sexual trafficking, and is on their board and has a compassionate, I forget the names, compassionate something model. Also brings yoga into the prison system. So working on the victimizer side of it, right? In the larger context of where people have come from, that results in why they do the things they do. And even being sociopaths and psychopaths. So we're definitely tapping into Annika's territory as we do the, I think, very brave and courageous work of familiarizing ourselves more with that victimizer territory. Yeah. Okay, everybody, thank you so much. If there's anything that you want to say to put onto this quadrant that would be painful to hold your bid on, please pipe up and we'll add in those. And then I'm going to move this on and complete us.
It strikes me as you're saying this that, you know, the victimizing can often happen because people have felt so powerless in their life. And it's like a pendulum swing of, I bloody well deserve this. I deserve this too. Me too.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that, because we can see how that tendency of the victimization, that we can swing and be the victimizer so easily. And we see that happening over and over again, don't we? Yeah. In society and history and in our individual dramas too.
Yeah,
Thank you
it's
so
like
much.
we're so hardwired to, you know, as humans, everybody has the right to know that they matter. And if we've gotten messages our whole life that we don't matter, there's this kind of rage that comes up that we will get it in any way. If we haven't learned how to get it appropriately because we were respected, then we learn how to get it inappropriately.
Yeah. So it becomes more understandable, doesn't it? And we can see how it's tapped into the victim.
Yeah.
I'd
Okay.
also like to add that often we think of the victimizer as coming from a position of power, but I often see it as a lack of capacity, and they're coming from a position of pain often.
Yes.
Can I add one thing? I'd like to suggest opportunism. And I'm thinking about the famous Stanford prison study from maybe 50 years ago, where they simply randomly assigned college students to be a prisoner or a prison guard. And the prison guards came up with all these creative ways of punishing and terrorizing and torturing their victims, basically, simply because they were put in a position of power, even though it had nothing to do with their original intent or their particular proclivities or personalities. It was randomized, but powerful study that is often neglected in terms of understanding things like Abu Ghraib and other situations where there is that kind of power disparity between groups.
And it's lying just underneath the surface in regular, ordinary, normal people. Yeah, as that study proved. And there's it might be the same studies, or it's the other one where they did the shock, where they thought they were shocking somebody in the other room. And very good movie.
That's the Milgram study that had to do with following orders.
Right.
More than actually
and they found that, I forget the stat on it, and if anybody remembers, it's not in my mind right now. I can see the actors in front of my head, but I can't think of the movie title. There's a movie done on that, which is really excellent to watch. If I think of it, I'll make sure I post it with the recording. But very opening, and there were people who stood up, and the ones who stood up actually usually had experiences that they had encountered this stuff before, and they weren't going to go there. So, but they were few and far between, and who stood up was actually very interesting too. It was probably people who you wouldn't think would stand up, and vice versa. So very powerful material to get into. Thank you, Rhoda.
Sure.
I think also from my experience, the diversity of information coming at us is stimulating the freeze zone of people, and they fluctuate from one side. I know myself too, where I have the understanding now, fluctuating from one side to the other, and not really being able to label that I'm in these dual ways throughout the day. And so it's caused me to have this nonverbal stress conflict. And I got the clarity. I thought, coming to the session, I thought, well, maybe I've got an orphan running around there without any language, right? No, it's that I'm fluctuating between these two polarities and not having clarity to label them and take action appropriate to my value system. So it's quite cool. Thanks so much, everybody.
Excellent. Excellent, Maureen. Yeah, I just want to make a riff off of something Sally said too, that Annika Lucas says the same thing about underneath the supposed power is actually a desperate feelings of unworthiness and lack of power. And that's what it's actually built upon. It's very difficult to see that when somebody's in that psychopathic control place, but her being up close and intimate and seeing the Achilles heels of these kinds of extreme, sides of the polarity, you know, that's what she attests to as well. And that's where the compassion ultimately can come in. Yeah.
Yeah, can sometimes be people who are intensely filled with shame, working out their shame with other people.
Right, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, fantastic, incredibly powerful work. Thank you, everybody. Now we're going to go to step 2, to these transcendent states. So we look at the polarity work. In this case, we've done victim-victimizer. And as we start to even out the quadrant, right, and poke into those unconscious places that maybe we had never poked into before or hadn't stirred up in a while, we start to balance it out. And that comes into a holisticness of it, a unity. So then we look, not all of these transcendent states will apply, but in this particular one, we look which ones do apply. So I'll use myself as a gauge, and please pop up if you feel my gauge is wrong. But I do think acceptance, I know when I start to do this work and I've got to a different place on this, I've done victimizer and victim myself repeatedly, but being able to do it in a group, this is the first time I've done it in a group, to get to a whiff of acceptance on this, right? Of understanding this more and getting to acceptance. I don't know if attunement is resonant. Balance, I would put. Bliss, no. Clarity, I got some clarity. Compassion, yes. I don't know, there might be some detachment in there. I'm not quite as activated about the victimizers that I see out in the world. Doesn't mean I'm gonna let them run wild or have no boundaries on them or work to do something about it. But I'm coming out with I'm not quite as triggered and not quite as charged and not quite as attached in the ways that I was, which is ultimately going to be more effective. Devotion, no. Dharma, no. Discernment, probably. Equality, equanimity, maybe. Eternality, faith, maybe a little something there in faith. Flow, forgiveness, that's a big word, but maybe. Generosity, grace, gratitude, harmlessness, harmony, humility. Yes, there's something in there about it's very humble to own one's own victimizer. Impeccability, probably. It's impeccable work to do this. Not very many people can look at their own victimizer like we've been doing. So that's quite in the whiff of impeccable. Joy, loyalty, neutrality. Patience, potentially. It's a lot of big stuff to work through. It's going to take some patience. Purity, quiescence, samadhi, selflessness, surrender, tolerance.
Sorry to interrupt.
Mm-hmm.
I've never heard the word quiescence before as opposed to acquiescence. What does it mean?
I'll have to look it up again.
Okay.
I looked it up before, and just as I was saying it, I was like, so somebody wants to look it up. It's something like all is well or something, or oversees it all. Yeah. Truth, potentially. There's something in here about truth, about all of this exists. Unconditional love, potentially, being able to open the heart to all of this. Unity, for sure. Wisdom, for sure. Now, I went through that quick, right? And hopefully that makes sense. And that would just be my calibration. Your calibration may be different on there. But hopefully you get, as you do that work, you start to be able to feel this topic in a different way in those kind of up there states, those unity states.
So I just looked up quiescence. Do you want to hear it?
Yes, please.
It says a period of inactivity or dormancy. So kind of a being with is how I perceive that.
Okay, thank you,
with
Lynn.
Something, no need to take action, absorb, sit with it, that kind of thing.
Well, I'm glad you looked it up, because that would ding, 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 that would kind of fit.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Okay, now we move to step 3. I'm going to read it out. I'll read it out once, and then I'll invite people to say it if it feels right for you to say, right? These are her particular words. They may not resonate for you. So if they don't, I would just invite you to poke around and find something that does resonate for you, that gets to the same essence of what she's doing here. And she calls it a prayer, but I changed it to a release statement because some people might react to the word prayer, but it's a prayer. Oh, eternity, Please take all these states of mind which are imbalanced in this pattern and balance and clear them. Do this so I may see more clearly and find my way home more easily. I give thanks knowing it will be done. So if you care to, I'm going to repeat it slowly, and you can say it out loud or in your mind if you care to. Oh, eternity, please take all these states of mind which are unbalanced in this pattern and balance and clear them. Do this so that I may see more clearly and find my way home more easily. I give thanks, knowing it will be done. Wow, my whole body is tingling. Oof. Wow. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for doing this work, everybody. We're all connected. We are all one. This helps us all individually. It helps the people here, and frankly, it helps the collective. I personally think this is one of the most powerful things that we can do. Thank you for the honor of being able to hold space to be able to get to this level with all of us and the contribution that I feel we just made. Wow. Whew. We're just a couple minutes over where I usually close. We close 90 minutes in, so I'd like to leave an opportunity for any closing comments, and then I'll segue into bonus time. So if there's anything that needs to continue to be processed or kept to keep working on so that you can leave in a safe place, I'll stick around to do that. Let's go to closing comments first.
Yeah, I'd like to really thank you, Christina, for helping clarify for me my use of power in this world, because this is what it's all about. How do we use our power responsibly and with empathy in whatever situation we're in?
Thank you, Sally.
Ditto on that, and as well, like how divine, it's so divine that, you know, that I would be here on this call this morning, and the collective, feeling the collective energy and the unity, and starting off the call and being in such an empty space within, and a little frightened of that space that I'm in with no direction, and I know exactly my direction now, and I feel unified, which I didn't feel before. So thank you so much, Christine.
Thank you, Maureen. Woo!
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. I feel very moved by this process, and I love, Sally, what you just said about reminding us to use our power responsibly and with empathy. And for me, what I noticed personally is both my tenderness and my courage have risen up a few notches.
Aww.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yay. Ditto.
Thank you, everybody. It feels really safe to be here, and I'm so grateful for that.
Beautiful.
And to you, Christina, especially,
thank
for
you,
holding the space for us.
Yeah, thank you. This is what it's about. Thank you.
Well, I have to add this, Christine, I think you'll like this. Something that I heard recently was a sailor never learns to sail in calm waters. You know, and so that's what I feel happened this morning, that, you know, even though the waters are turbulent right now and so many complexities, together we can learn to sail and calm the waters. Yeah.
It reminds me of Paul Selig, who has a series of books called I Am the Word. I'm quite involved with his work. And he's using the metaphor, his guys are using the metaphor of sailing from continents, right? So old world, new world. And we're in the choppy waters. They very much use that analogy, right? And it's like, and I was going through it myself and asking some questions, and they're like, you know, it's a sturdy ship. The sails are getting a little tattered, right? So I was like really being battered around by stuff, especially back in the fall. But they're like, you know, the the actual hull itself is strong, you know, so I think we're getting through that. And they see that for the collective, so they're doing a lot of work along that. Thank you, Marie.
Well, that's where resilience is. We all have so much resilience, I've heard, and I feel like I've met some companions that have the resilience that I have to, you know, get centered again, to get on the compass point again. But I had forgotten in the flurry of all that's happening where to be centered. So yeah, it's beautiful. It's just unbelievably divine.
Let's do a couple more checkouts. Remember, you can be anywhere on the vibrational scale. You didn't have to have a hallelujah moment from what we just did, but it's wonderful if you did. So be congruent, be authentic, genuine, wherever you are. Anybody else wants to close out, please go right ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to just add that I'm back in my passion, because to me this work is critical to understanding how we impact each other, how we impact the planet. Constant, second by second, we're impacting everything around us, and this is at the core of it. Thank you, Christina.
Yeah, thank you, Sally. Yeah. Okay, going once, going twice. Closed. I'm going to officially close us for today. Thank you. It's an emergent process, so I think maybe it'll be next Thursday. It seems to be falling on Thursday, so you're on the confirmed list. You can unsubscribe at any time, but we'll send you the notice when I do make up my mind when the next one will be. I tend to try to schedule them at different times, so different people from different time zones can, you know, have some variety instead of always sticking it on the same zone. That will always make it uncomfortable for that same person or people over and over again. So I like to mix it up. What else? It's the recording will be posted on the community support page and onto my YouTube, as well as the maps. You're welcome to stick around for bonus time to continue to process anything. If you need to speak with me directly, you can email me at christina@shiftitcoach.com. And we'll continue the work there. Take good care if you're signing off. Thank you again for the precious work you did. And thank you, Pat, for your assistance.
Yes, it's always good. It's just, I usually don't have words after it's over with. So many great shares. And
yeah. Okay, bye, take care. Anybody have anything for bonus time? If so, just unmute yourself and let me know. I'm just going to turn off the recording.
I do.
Yeah.
Just some of the technical question I had earlier that I didn't want to interrupt your flow.
Sure.
You were working from your tablet as you were filling that in. Is that right? Or were you, I can't remember. Yeah, because you were writing. So, I mean, I know that you can write with the mouse sharing on the whiteboard, but if I'm a lefty, so it's quite awkward for me to write.
That's not what I'm doing. Yeah.
Oh, that's not what you're doing. So.
Yeah. I'll give you the abbreviated version. And if you're really serious about getting into it, there's a brand new course that we're midway through doing called Shift into Digital Work. Oh. And you can jump into that and we'll turn it into a home study kit. And you can find that on my website under the courses page. What I'm using, and there's different hardware, but the hardware that I'm using is I've got my laptop and I am using my Cintiq. So I've got a big, what's called a Wacom Cintiq. Wacom is W-A-C-O-M, that's the brand. And Cintiq is the model within the brand, C-I-N-T-I-Q. So I've got a high-end drawing tablet.
Okay.
Yeah, I have two sizes. The one I'm using right now, I think I can show it. Hopefully I won't disconnect myself. So I've got it mounted on my desk with the stand, and I got the big sucker. It's 22 or 24 inches. It's one of the biggest ones. I also have a travel size, which is a 16-inch that I use at home. And when I was traveling, taking it with me, it's about the size of my laptop, so it fits into my computer bag. The software, there's a bunch of different software options. Oh, by the way, on hardware, the other Wacom, it's kind of two hardwares that are the leading hardwares. One is the Wacom Cintiqs, and the other is the iPads.
Yeah, I have an iPad Pro, a big one.
Yep.
8.5.
Then you'd want to use that. And I brought that up because the software will probably depend on your hardware. People who have iPad and end up using Procreate because it's an app, an Apple app. The one that we teach in the course is Sketchbook Pro, because myself and my co-hosts were all on Cintiqs. And part of the reason of doing that course is to have a program, particularly for my visual coach people, my certified visual coaches, because they're learning how to use my templates like I just used with you guys, and how to do that online. And so I teach them the way I do it. So anyway, we mostly focus on Sketchbook Pro in that program. But for you, since you have an iPad,
compatible?
no. Well, yes, actually, I'm sorry, they do. Yes, they do, because that's what we're doing in that program is there's a Sketchbook app that you can use on your iPad. It's a different, there's how it shows up in
slightly different layout.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's a different layout. Yeah.
Super.
And we cover both. Yeah.
So the last question then is, if your course has already started, is it too late for me to join this one?
Nope, you can join. People, given the nature of what's going on in the world, I kind of had precognizance to do this course at this timing. So people
Rolling
have been
entry.
every week, even though we're 7 weeks in, they're still coming in.
Oh,
so,
you're 7 weeks in already.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. But
amazing.
you've already got an iPad. So the first couple of sessions was figuring out your hardware, and we went into excruciating detail about the pros and cons of all the hardware. So you got the first 3 done because you know what hardware you're on, and you can jump in and get Sketchbook Pro for the iPad. And then you can go right to the last 2 sessions, which are how to set up your preferences and settings. And then we're getting into editing tools. We're on a break right now. So this Saturday we're not meeting, so there's an extra week. So it's a good time to come in. And then we come back looking at the drawing tools in the program. So
right. Okay, I will check how the lay of my other commitments are. It's a yes, either now or later.
Yeah, we'll turn it into a home study kit so you can get it in the future too. Yeah.
Lovely. Thanks, Christina, for that.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks, Lynn. Good. Cool. Julia, are you sticking around? It's nice to see your face. How are you doing? You still going into, you must be like 2 months in now. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's 54 days of quarantine.
Wow. How are you holding up?
Oh, great. Sometimes I never thought I could spend so many days all alone, but it happened. And now I'm really okay, and hopefully it's going to at least to end a little bit this lockdown. So hopefully. And now we have to face the change, and it's quite tough because being locked down is difficult, but gaining again the liberty, it's worse because there is fear, and you don't know how to act well. You have to stay aside from people, and so it's quite strange. But and they say it's viable. we can do it, so it's fine.
It's interesting, the different approaches. It's interesting watching Sweden and their approach, and then the problem with the lockdown approach is then, if I'm understanding your comments, is the, as we start to remingle sort of thing, how to do that. Are there going to be more waves, or, you know, everybody kind of comes out, then does it stir it all up again? So
yeah,
we'll see.
Yeah, but and also it's very difficult to have real information about what happens in other countries.
Yeah.
Because if you hear the news, you understand something, but if you know people living there, you understand that it's not so easy and so plain and what's happening. So it's something that really, that's why I really appreciate getting in touch with different people, because you really understand that we are living the same thing. And it doesn't matter lockdown or not lockdown, but the feeling of the people is the same.
Yeah.
So it's very, very intense to see people, even virtually, because it's the only way I see people since too many days. But it's really something that touch the feelings, the body, to see that we are all together in this.
Yeah. I'm so glad you come, and it's so good to continue to touch in with you as you know, we're all going through this, but you're in the leading edge of it all, being right there in Italy, and for you to be in your country home by yourself with your dog and separated from your family. I know that's not an easy thing to go through, even if it was on your vision map. It's like, careful what you put on your magnetism map, but you'll have this out of your system, right? Yeah, for the rest of your life, probably. Yeah.
It was one of my goals, but probably the pandemic was a sign, because otherwise it could never happen. Me staying almost 2 months separated by my family, I guess it was quite difficult.
Yeah.
And so it happened. Okay, I can say I did it.
Well, all the best as those restrictions ease, and it's going to be good to have your continued report, because you're ahead of that curve. I have Stephen, who's in China, so he's now, you know, back at it and using his visual skills in his teaching again. So it's nice to see him springing back up into action, and I'll be following you to see what you do, and the rest of us hopefully will be following along behind the 2 examples I get to see from those hard-hit regions.
I can give you some some news about my getting out from the lockdown, maybe.
Yeah.
In a few days.
Yeah, that's the fascination and the blessing of being able to work online with people from all over. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Christine.
Okay, sweetheart. Yeah, good to see you. Yeah. Boy, when we get to that visual coach certification, right? It's just what we're going to be through. You know, our future selves will be doing that. It's just amazing what's happened. Okay, Lynn, I see you have another question in the chat. Go for it.
Yeah, if it's okay. I've actually tried several routes to get this answered without satisfaction yet. So I'm like, I should take advantage of the fact you're here and you could probably answer this for me. When I'm running a Zoom and I want to see people's video and I want to share something, I lose the screen, and then I lose being able to see them. I can either share a PowerPoint or share my screen or something like that, but I can't see the window too. I do have 2 screens, and I don't know, what do you do to make it work? And then, so part of that is, and where do you plug your iPad, your Syntec into? Is it a USB port that you plug into your laptop? And
yeah, there's a bunch of cords, and it'll depend on what your laptop is, and sometimes you have to jerry-rig some stuff up. But if you already have 2 monitors or an extra monitor, it should just be a matter of dragging your Zoom controls over, or whichever program, right? Drag it over into your monitor. So how I work, my Cintiq is basically a monitor. And so It used to be that you could share monitors in Zoom. They've taken that away. I don't know. It must somehow be connected with their security stuff. I hope they bring it back because it was very handy. You could just pull things over to your monitor, and whatever was on that monitor would show on your recording. So right now, and Pat and I have got to figure this out. Right now, I think we've got it generally set in Zoom that we're on speaker view. So the only thing that comes up video-wise is the speaker. So when I share slides on the you guys who are live, you can manage your viewing mode so you can see both at the same time. The recording will put and it goes so it doesn't compete with my map. It goes up in the top. Correct me if I'm wrong, Pat, but I think it's the top right-hand corner, and which is basically where I keep my tools anyway.
So are you working with one screen or two?
I am working, my monitor, my tablet is a monitor. So you could call that a screen, right?
Yes.
But yeah, I'm about to work with 3. So I have a laptop, a tablet, and a monitor.
That's what I'm aiming for.
Yeah, yeah. And then you basically, like when I work, yes, I can see, to your question that you started out with, I've got on my tablet the map, so I'm able to record everything on my tablet and see that. Right here on my laptop, I have it on gallery view because I like to kind of see the full class, right? Yeah. See everybody, so I can see who's calibrating, who's crying, who's distracted, who's whatever, right? Yeah. Right. So just like you can do in an in-person class, but yeah.
So I see that might work when I'm drawing something on a tablet. What I find is if I share a PowerPoint, then that PowerPoint presentation takes up everything. I can no longer see any video at all, and it's just like.
But you just got to drag your gallery over to your something else. If you've got 2 things,
it only gives a full screen on both screens. It's weird.
Well, then you should be able to reduce down one of them. So
it won't reduce either. Honest to God, I've been around and around on this, and for some reason it's a weird quirk with sharing a PowerPoint. If you share a whiteboard and you're doing something there, it works, but I haven't plugged in a tablet yet, so that's the next thing that I'm going to try. The downside of that is, like, if I do a PowerPoint slide, I can get people to annotate on the slide, and it's a way of people participating. But if I use my tablet, they can't annotate to that. So then that's a limitation there.
Yep.
So one way or another, I got to get this sorted out. But
I haven't checked into it too much because things have been happening too fast. But I see my old colleagues, David Sibbett and the Grove, they have their own suite of tablet or templates for groups, and they have been using Mural, which is an environment. And I haven't poked into it, but
you mean as opposed to Zoom?
Correct. Yeah.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. So and you might look. I haven't had time to investigate it, and I'm thinking it's opposed to Zoom. I think it's. I don't know if it's Zoom or they have their own thing and everybody's in there. I'm gonna guess the latter, that everybody's in there, and then you're able to use a lot of sticky notes and dot voting and things like that. And so back to what you're probably doing right now with using your PowerPoint.
Lynn,
thank you for that. And so it's some weird little glitch with PowerPoint that if you use it on like when you're showing a slide versus looking at the design view of it, that it takes up both screens and they can't be minimized. And I don't know why that is, but anyway. I haven't.
Yeah, it used to work. That used to happen to me too. There's a different way I've been using, and I can't remember what it is, but there's been a different way that I've been doing it now that they've changed it, that you can't share the monitors. So I use my PowerPoint too, and I've been able to do both. So I don't know how to advise you though. One thing I could direct you to, somebody who's really awesome with technology, she's my co-host in that program, is Lisa Moore. And it's VizBiz Coach, so VizBiz Coach. I think it's .com.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
So.
And you can buy half hours with her, you know, time
Great.
with her, and
Yeah.
she's awesome. So, and if she doesn't know how to do something, she'll research it and get it back to you.
Fabulous. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you so much for
I
that.
have a question on that, and I'm not that techie, but what if can people annotate to a PDF if you saved your PowerPoints to PDF?
She means live annotation.
Yeah, I'm talking about live in the class. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
work around to what kind of like what we're doing, instead of me doing all the drawing, everybody co-building stuff together.
Yeah. You know, the other quirky thing is if I have my second screen, which is my big screen, my 27-inch, where I can see all the people, because if you have a large group, then you can see all the squares. But then I look up at them and I'm looking at that all the time, and people are just looking at my nostrils, and you know. You
got to position it. That's what I've done all sorts of contortions to get the video like this. Yeah, and get a light set up here instead of up here. So yeah, you just got to do the work to
fiddle.
Yeah, and then all the stuff I'm having shoulder-wise, this-wise, because the ergonomics. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. 21st century problems, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks a lot. Be well.
Okay, Lynn,
we'll see you
too.
next time.
Bye.
Thank you.